that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
New England, right on the coast. I can get right to the ocean, and I'm in a historical part. My house was actually designed to keep the British out during the Revolutionary War. So we have the secret staircases and hidden panels, and I'm 80% English, so it's really confusing.
That is so confusing. Wow, that's so cool. So yes, that's right. To keep the Brits out. Absolutely, you were.
Right?
God, that's so. Yeah. Well, there's. I've never been to that part of the country. I'm sure it's very beautiful. I'm sure it is.
It is. It's very historic, and if you ever get a chance, you really need to go to Salem, Massachusetts. Like the home of all what happened to the witches and all of that, and the way they do it in October is just amazing, and it's a once in a lifetime thing, at least.
Thank you for that, for reminding me. Yes, absolutely. One Halloween,
Yes.
Salem is definitely
You have
got to
to
be on the map.
to do the parade and the ball
Yeah.
and all the haunted houses and the historic houses. And yeah.
Oh, I love Halloween in the States, because in the UK,
Me too.
it's well, in the Europe in general, yes, it's celebrated, but it's not to the level that it is in America. Do you know what I mean?
Right? We love
Yeah.
it here.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so, and then you got Christmas straight after, so it's all pretty unique. So if I was to say to you then, right, what do you do? Could you sum it up in some sort of package very quickly?
Sure. So I like to think of myself as someone that's very unique. So a unique psychic, tarot reader, and channeler. I also do a lot of pet communication. I have a lot of strong feelings and connections with animals. I am vegan. I have like a real love for them. But I do spend much of my days in channeling. I start every single day actually channeling the Ra Collective, if not archangels and my spirit guides.
That is so interesting. It's so interesting that you've got the whole, the channeling package there, and the psychic gift as well, which I want to explore, because I don't always get to meet, not everyone that comes on for the channeling docuseries has or uses these other gifts as well. So and they are gifts.
Oh.
So let's just go back to then when you were when you were a child. Then you felt that you was in contact with something back then. With now you look back with the eyes that you've got now. What do you think you was in contact with?
I had, first of all, just a knowingness. So when I was really young, I was talking about what was being channeled in the Law of One text. I was talking about what the Ra was saying through Carla Ruckert, with the help of Don Elkins and James McCarty. And the book got published in '84. So I was a really young child. And here I am talking about what ended up being in those books. And my parents are very staunch New Englanders. They were salt of the earth. But the one thing that I think separated them from other parents maybe is that they said, okay, well, it's Dianne being Dianne, so it's okay. So they didn't discourage me or stop me. But I would talk extensively about my life on Venus, which is where the Ra come from. And I got really fascinated at a very young age, like around 3 or 4, with the concept of souls. My mother would do that typical prayer at night. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And I got really hung up on that, to the point that I got my eldest sister. I'm the youngest of 6. My parents had children over 21 years. I was an oops. And, so my eldest sister was like, okay, fine, we'll go to church. And because that's where they talk about souls. And I got very, interested in that. And once I found out that they had councils in churches, I was like, oh, councils, that seems familiar. And so when I was 4, I started going to meetings, just the open meetings that they have. And then when I was 9, I started serving on an actual council. And then when I was 12, my sister and I started the food pantry, the only food pantry in my town that has held up through the pandemic. Because being of service to others, which is what the Law of One is about, that's what the Ra talk about. And so I had like this knowingness from a very young age. And some things that I thought were normal, like I would just think to my mom, I want a glass of water. And she would just get up and go get it. And I could read her thoughts. And even though like my mother was a staunch New Englander who would never talk about these things, she was clearly very psychic, intuitive, telepathic, and we could have these conversations. And so I didn't know I was different back then. I just thought everybody did it.
No, but obviously, Mum has transitioned not too long ago, and she knew of your work
Just
up
a
to
few
this
months.
point, which is beautiful. And did Mum did the work? Do you think that you're doing now? Did it help Mum in her transition a bit?
Oh my goodness. First of all, as someone who is a dementia practitioner, dementia is terminal. So all of my patients passed. And so I've witnessed countless people passing, but I've never had somebody pass in my own home. And that was my mother's wish. And after being a director in a nursing home, I wanted to make sure that that wish happened. And so, I sort of stopped everything, kept a YouTube channel going, but that's something I could do out of my home. And the amount of angels that she and I were bringing in, that it's so funny, because my brother that lives with us, because he has a disability with his bones, with his spine, he's a non-believer. And he was literally walking into angels and seeing angels. And he was like, there's something in this room. He goes, and then one day he found my mom just standing in the dining room, and he asked her, well, what are you doing? And she goes, well, I'm just waiting for all the angels to finish coming, and the house just kept filling up, and you could feel it. And it's so funny because he's a non-believer, and he was feeling it. And so I think together, like with my mom and I, we were just bringing in all these angels And I could feel, because my dad had already transitioned, I could feel like my dad had come in to help her cross over. And the house became very full for a very long time, even after she passed. It's like a lot of them, I think, stayed to comfort my brother and I. And he even continued to have these sightings. And it's funny because on my channel, my YouTube channel, I did this Archangel Michael video, and he didn't know that I did it. And I didn't know that he even had an experience. But after I made that video that I said, oh, Archangel Michael came to me, he said, there was somebody in my room last night. And I was like, what do you mean? Like somebody broke in? Like, what are you talking about? Someone's in your room. And he goes, no, it wasn't from around here. And I said, oh, that was Archangel Michael. He was coming in to, just give us a little bit of comfort, I think. And it's interesting when you have someone who's a non-believer, but I'm going to say he is still intuitive, even though he won't admit it.
How many souls have you seen cross over then? How many people have you been with that have sort of passed on then in your care?
I mean, the first half of my life was in the ballet world, and, and I did quite well with it. I was a gold medalist. And right before I got, to the point where I was going to get accepted into a company, the universe gave me a very minor heart condition. And at the time it was heartbreaking because I spent, every day doing it. And now as someone that's older looking back, if that did not happen, I wouldn't have become the spiritual person I am now. I would have been that very physical person who just, woke up and did ballet every day because that's what I did. So I'm actually grateful, and I can still do it, and I still do ballet. But obviously not at that level because, it's minor enough that it'll keep me out of a company, but not enough that it'll stop me from performing and dancing. And so I had to actually figure out, okay, well, I need to get a college degree. I need to actually do something. And so I started off with children, and I didn't really care for that. And it was when I started working with elders that I really found my niche. And I think because my parents had me very late in life, my grandparents were all born in the 1800s. So I never got to meet my grandparents because they were that much older, because my parents were also born late in life. And so I got to experience elders, and they're amazing. And to help them transition, first of all, is such an honor. It was really just, it was a pleasure in a sense, that I could do that for them. And so, yeah, I did that for many, many years. But I mean, obviously, and I worked as a director in a nursing home. And so, you not just witness those people passing, but then all the other residents that are there. And so you do work side by side with hospice care. And it was hospice that came into our house with my mother, and they were talking to her. Now, this is very interesting. They were talking to her about angels. They were clearing her chakras. This is hospice that is paid for by Medicare. This was not a private hospice, because I thought we were going to have to hire a private hospice, and come to find out we didn't. And here these lovely people are coming in, and they're educated about angels and clearing chakras and doing Reiki. And it helped my mother tremendously. And they go into the nursing homes and they do the same thing. And it does make the transition easier.
So I guess, yeah, that's beautiful. That is that your mum had that experience as well. And I guess that, Andrew, for yourself, I guess that having that many people around you transition, this was all part of your journey in the work that you're doing now. Sure. Because, yeah, just how can it not be, right? So where on your journey then did you start getting into becoming into this person that you are now? Where did that path then start to open up for you to become a full-time reader and sort of a spiritual advisor, which you are, and more?
So I was introduced by this wonderful teacher when I was 14 about meditation. I mean, it was just during health class, because like I said, staunch New England parents, we didn't sit around doing yoga and meditating. But I had this wonderful teacher, and that just sort of took me on this path that never stopped. So then when I got to college, and now you have bookstores in a city, and you have access to more knowledge and more classes. And so I started doing tarot while I was in college. And I've never stopped. I do tarot every morning. I do start my day that way. And anytime I have a question, I certainly pull out my tarot deck. But the actual channeling, I did a lot of angelic and spirit guide channeling in my 20s, just for myself. It was more experimental, trying to figure things out. But it wasn't until I was 30, and because I got married rather young, kind of foolishly, but and it ended up in sort of like what I thought was a terrible divorce. But now that I'm older, I'm like, it is such a blessing, because it led to this dark night of the soul that left me thinking, I got to do something more. Something more needs to happen. There's more to life than this. There's a reason for all of this. And so that's when I really started in with the law of one, and everything clicked. And I still had all those memories from childhood that never went away. And I said, that's my soul family. I need to channel this group of beings. And so it's kind of funny, because I kept trying to get the exact ones, the exact raw that channeled those 5 books. I couldn't. Month after month after month, I could not get those raw. And what I ended up getting was another raw collective that I call them baby raw. They're still 6th density, but they have only been 6th density for 2 million years. So they're in the angelic realm. But they're sort of like, I call them baby raw. And it's a kind of a grandiose concept, because they sort of all came at once, and there's about 20 million of them. And I said, that's too much. I can't talk to, because at that point, their mindset is all the same. They live in perfect harmony. And so they share the same thoughts. But I said, in my human mind, I need to connect with one of you. And so one stepped forward, and that's why I call my channelings Rahasha. And because he said, when I was 5th density and I still had a name, I was called Rahasha. And so that's who I channel, even though I understand fully that I'm getting the rest of his collective. In my mind's eye, it's always him sitting in front of me. We both sit, I channel cross-legged, he sits cross-legged in front of me. We lock palms. I open my heart chakra, connected to his, I open my 3rd eye chakra, connected to his, and we lock energies. And that's how I channel. And I do drink like an amazing amount of fluids while I do it, because I do believe that they use the fluids in our body as a conduit. So even though I don't drink a ton of fluids throughout the day, when I channel, I certainly do. So I do have like this process that I go through. And I started it about 16 years ago with this particular rock collective.
Which was around the time of the divorce, right? Okay.
Exactly. And it really pulled me through, and it made me a better person, I think. It changed me, and it changed me in a better way, because at that moment I was just, when you go through a divorce, you feel so many emotions, anxiety, sadness, stress, and, you're so worried, and, but when you work with 6th density light beings, it's the angelic realm, and they're lifting you up. And so I kept getting lifted up, day after day that I was working with them, and it really helped pull me through. So I would say I am your stereotypical wanderer that they talk about in the law of one, because children will create karma, and they will tie you to a planet you're not coming back to. So wanderers, we just came down to help. I've never had any other incarnation on this planet, and I have no intentions of doing it. I think this one life has been enough, and hopefully I've done my good deed and helped raise the vibration some, along with all the other light workers. But no, I would say I'm that stereotypical wanderer from the law of one.
And I guess maybe that karmic ties there as well. Even if you were to adopt, it would still be the same, maybe karma back here then.
sometimes, but what I've seen with some of my clients that are wanderers is that some of them at this point, they're bringing in other high density light workers. They're bringing in people that are like already in fourth density. So their children are very gifted. They're amazing. And I think it's these children that are changing our planet. But right. And I never had a desire to have children. I never, even as a small child, that was never something that interested me.
No, no, no. I mean, I'm 43 now. I'll be 44 this year, but I'm not gonna say no. I'm open. I'm still open. So, but yeah, I think it's a different thing for all of us. Maybe in past lives you've done it all already.
Sure, I'm sure like on other planets where I've done third density for real and I've had to do that. But at this point, I really like helping our second density friends, all of the animals. I am I'm a mastiff person. I cannot wait to get another mastiff. Once I move, I'm getting another mastiff. My ancestor was the first one to bring over an ancestor. He Peter Brown. He brought over the first English mastiffs on the Mayflower, and I didn't even know that when I got my first one. I had no idea until I read that whole story. I knew the story about him looking for his dogs in the woods and all that, but I never knew it was a mastiff. And so, to me, if it's under 200 pounds, and I do love cats, and I do have a cat.
Well, let's just go straight into that then. Let's go into that side of your work because there's so much to talk about with you because your work is so varied. Let's just go into you give. Actually, let's just mention this as well. Your website is
DianneAquarius.com.
Okay. Now on there you offer you offer some interesting stuff. You offer live pet readings, okay? You also do as well pre-recorded tarot psychic video readings, which I thought was interesting. Why the pre-recorded?
Because I have a lot of older clients, I found out. And, they're not always comfortable using, because I like to do my readings live through Zoom. I don't like doing telephone readings because with telephone readings, you have to do things like, and now I'm shuffling the cards. And now I'm laying the cards down. Like, to me, it seems like a waste of time. You can just click the Zoom button. We can look at each other and it's live. But I have some elderly clients and they don't want to be bothered. And unlike with animals, I don't feel like I need the human in front of me. Through my membership program, I do 50 members a month where I read for them and it's live. I go live on my YouTube channel with them and I don't need to see them. I can just pick up on their energy. With animals, I do need to be able to look into their eyes. I do need to have that connection. So that's why with animals, it is live, but I don't feel like with humans, it has to be.
With the animal one, do you need to see a picture of the pet at all? Or
either have the animal live in front of me. Like I just did a horse yesterday and, that was fine. They took the camera out, they had their phone. They took me out to the stable. And it is a little different because I do need to see the eyes, and on animals that are prey, their eyes are on the sides. So, they just figure it out. But if they can't do that for some reason, then a picture will suffice as long as I can see the eyes.
Okay. Again, this is all very unique, having all these abilities to be able to do this. I've got to say that to you.
But I knew that when I was 3 or 4, and that's why I became vegetarian so young, because once I understood, because we used to drive by this pasture of cows and I could kind of hear the cows. The cows were having thoughts. But I then made the connection one day and I asked my mom, well, what is this hamburger that I'm eating? And she's like, well, those cows. And I was like, oh, no. And so that was like a real shock. I'm like, because if you can hear something think, it's hard to eat it. So I made that connection really, really young.
We're going to get back into the pet communication as well. I want to get back in this. So, and you'd also do personalized meditation videos, I believe.
I do, because a lot of people are trying to work on certain things. They're stuck in some area of their life. They're trying to manifest something. They have a chakra that's been shut down for years. Um, there's so many different reasons that people can do it. Or they're trying really hard to meet their spirit guide or a particular angel, and so through a meditation video, they can sit there and practice that every day and just work on it.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, you've got the live video sessions for the ET channeling as well, which we're going to get into as well, right?
Yes.
We're going to fit
And
it in
that's with
here.
the Rock Collective. Yes.
Right, absolutely. And some people watching this will just want to see that. The other people will, watching this will want to just hear about the whole, the whole aspects of your work as well. Who was your, before we get to the animal communication, who was your mentor in any of this processing as well? When you had the sort of dark night of the soul from 30 onwards, was there any sort of mentors that came into your life in those periods?
I wish I could say there was a physical mentor, like somebody that, but I live in an area that really isn't possible. We had one new age store and it closed down pretty quickly. So what I did was I just read every book that I could find. And, everything from Sylvia Brown to Doreen Virtue, who I know has completely changed her mind, to Dr. Wayne Dyer, to anything that Hay House put out, to whatever I could get my hands on. That's what I was looking at. But I could also hear my guides, and my guides would give me a lot of clarity and guidance.
Thank you for that. With the animal communication then, yes, do you hear the thoughts then from people's pets? Is that how it works for you? Yeah
absolutely. You just connect to their energy the same way you would a human. They have their own thoughts and feelings, and like the Ross say, the way that they, they're in second density, the way that they become third density like us is through love. Because with love, they develop a personality. And with a personality, they develop consciousness, awareness. And so that way, in their next incarnation, then they can become third density. But it's through love and kindness that they help, that helps them to go from one density to the next.
And I'm sure the animals do tell the gossip as well. I'm sure they do.
Oh, I have had them say all kinds of interesting things, because what they do is they don't always know words, but they can certainly show images. And so it becomes really apparent that, mom and dad is fighting or drinking a little too much, or that. Yes, I have been shown some interesting images.
Yeah. And I think people, absolutely, I bet so. And we can sense our pets as well, can't we? When they're
sure,
trying to communicate with us. I guess then the hardest thing it's always a hard thing, isn't it, when you've got a pet that you love as well. And what pet don't you love? But, the farewells, it's always difficult, isn't it?
It is. And a lot of times that is why people are trying to connect with me, is because they want to make sure that it's a good transition. And, what I say to people, because a lot of times people are like, how do I know? Especially if it's a situation where it's a real illness, and how do I know what to do? How do I know what the next step is? And what I always say is you ask the animal. You say to them, because this is what I did with my first cat. My first cat I got when she was 14, and she passed when I was 30. And she ended up getting kidney disease. And she was quite ill. And I said to her, and because the vet was talking about putting her down, and I said, oh, I can't just do that. So one day I said to her, look, you have to make it crystal clear to me, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are done. Because if not, I can't do it. And so the very next day, she stopped walking. And so I think if you communicate that, because they do read our emotions, they do have more of a vocabulary, I think, because their higher selves are right there. They have a higher self, just like we do. They can understand. And that's why I always tell people, when you're in doubt about what to do, put it onto the pet. Ask them when they're done and tell them, I want it to be crystal clear, because I had to have it. I couldn't have any doubts.
No, of course not. Yeah. And I know that's very healing for a lot of people, just to to hear that as well, and to, it's yeah, never easy, is it? It's never easy.
No, it's
Uh,
so painful.
yeah,
It is.
it is, and oh god, coming to this reality, it's not, it's just, it's bloody difficult, isn't it? Oh god, it is.
It is.
But there's a lot of love and
Yes.
that the animals give to their owners, and there's a lot of reasons for coming together, isn't there?
Absolutely. And we do write them into our soul contracts. It is oftentimes agreed upon, because if you're going to have like an owner, say like you or I, that's going to give them a lot of love and a lot of attention, well, they're coming into our soul contract. We're writing them in and they're agreeing to it to help them progress, to help them with their ascension. So there is a purpose behind it. Yes.
So interesting. Let's just go to spirit guides then. So
Sure.
when did you become aware then that you had a spirit guide, and has that changed as you've evolved as well?
Um, yeah, I have had two different guides. The guide that I had when I was younger was female. Um, I'm not saying how I would know. I mean, she was just always there. And so, but then after I went through that whole dark night of the soul, I got a very different guide. And I think our guides are specialists, and we write the guide into our soul contract that we need at that time. And so I still have them. But at that time, I wasn't really comfortable. Well, nobody even talked about it at that time, about Palladians and Arcturians and Andromedans. And so my guide presented himself as a Buddhist monk. And, I've always had a certain love of Buddhism. And so when I asked him, why do you look Buddhist? And he said, well, because I had a past life that I liked. But it wasn't until a few years later that I started to realize, oh, well, no guides are actually human. I mean, having a human guide would be useless. I mean, why would we want somebody like us? And I said, so what do you look like really? Who are you really? And he's Arcturian. And, once he took off that mask of, being that Buddhist monk, he was blue. And he showed himself, but it wasn't until I was ready to actually accept that.
Of course, yeah, yeah. When you're ready, the master shall appear. Absolutely, and I guess
Exactly.
we've spoken about obviously animals, their pets and everything, but you can have spirit animals as guides, I suppose.
Absolutely can. I find that certain cultures seem more, like last night I had a Native American client, and they seem to have more spirit guides. So just like my Asian clients do too. Seems like certain cultures seem a little bit more susceptible to having them. And I think it's just part of their lineage, it's part of what they write into their contracts. And not to say that anyone can't, because I mean, I've seen lots of people have them. Sometimes too, what happens is you have a special pet that crosses over and they sort of stay with you too. But there is a cultural difference I have noticed, because, I do over 1,000 readings a year, and I allow anybody to come in, whether it has fin, fur, feather, if they're blue, green, it does not matter to me. But it does seem like certain cultures are more susceptible to having them, even though anybody certainly can.
Okay, so when you're doing a sort of psychical, well, actually, no, when you're doing a mediumship reading for someone, and correct me if I'm wrong, then that sort of working through your guide a bit more then to bring that communication.
Right. So when I do mediumship, I do direct communication. I do not allow them inside my body. So I don't do like what the Victorians did, where they're talking and shaking the table and doing the voices. No, it's direct communication. And if I have a hard time getting them through, my guide is always right there to give me some information. Because sometimes they don't want to talk, but my guide, who can see everything from a higher perspective, can at least tell me, well, they don't want to talk because of, this issue. And so that's where having good communication with your guides is so important.
Absolutely, it is. And there's always signs, isn't there, for everyone that our maybe our spirit guides are trying to communicate with us. Maybe our loved ones who have departed are trying to communicate with us.
Sure. You know, a lot of times we see those so-called angel numbers, those 111, 222, or, you know, for the longest time, I kept getting 123, 123. And I'm like, why am I getting 123? But I blew it off. And so then I started getting 1234, 1234. So I finally said, all right, guys, what are you trying to tell me? And they were like, well, we was trying to tell you 123, go. You need to move on. Like, you're done being a dementia practitioner. So now we've added a 4 to give you a nudge out the door.
to really go, yeah. Yeah. It's over now. Yeah. It's finished. Yeah.
They can do feathers, they can do coins, they can do birds and butterflies. And I've had clients that have deer, things like that. But oftentimes it's something that means something to that person, whether the person that's on the other side or the person that's receiving it. But, you know, like I always say, the language of the universe is mathematical in nature. So sometimes we get numbers, sometimes we get geometrical symbols, sometimes we get signs that we can't quite figure out. And we have to like somehow later decode them in meditation.
Yeah, absolutely, we do. And with your work as well, you know, people are able to communicate to deceased loved ones when they want to come through. Obviously, you know, you can't always say that that's going to happen, right? Even though
I never make that promise. That's why you don't see on my website like one solo mediumship reading, because I cannot guarantee. If they wish to, then, you know, because you have free will on this planet, but you have free will on the other side also.
Yes, of course you do, and I guess they know best, because they're aware of the greater reason for why their loved ones, you know, there, and what they're trying to get out of the life experience. And I guess there's a lot of forgiving when they do come through that takes place for some of them, depending what there's, you know, not always, but there's a lot of love.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
But yeah, is love the main message that comes through most times? That is what really the client needs to hear.
I think sometimes it's what they need to hear, but a lot of times the biggest message I get is like, I'm free, I'm happy. Like, they'll show me images of them like skipping, dancing, running, because they had some sort of debilitating disease, like they were in a wheelchair, or, you know, something was making them more bedbound. And so I see that a lot, like this sense of freedom that they have on the other side. And that message to me is like, look, you don't have to worry. I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm whole. And sometimes that, I think, brings a lot of relief to the person.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I can't imagine it for some people. Yeah, because there's you know, we seem to, some of us do, you know, seem to, when we do cross over, take our problems that we never sorted out on this side with us,
right?
Whether karmically it was supposed to be like that, I'm sure there's free will to not have it, to have that problem not sorted out on this level, and I think it's more helpful to sort them out here. But that's up to the individual, isn't it?
It is. And sometimes, you know, people don't work through their issues, and it does get carried over sometimes. And so depending upon the severity of the issue, sometimes they don't really want to talk about it, especially if they haven't been over there for very long. They're not ready.
What is the, as far as you're aware, the process of when the human life ends, and then it's the spirit energy then that's transforming then in back in, well, or moving on in a sense back home, and that's no way an understanding of how it works, right? I'm just for this conversation, right? But there is a transformation that takes place, because I mean, you hear about other people, they talk about life reviews, you know, and you know, an understandable existence. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, first of all, I think it takes a bit to get used to not having a body. So there is like that transitory period. I don't think they go directly to the life review, but the life review to me looks like, it looks more like technology, to be honest with you. It's not like something's just flashing in front of you or something. No, it looks more like technology. And I've seen this a lot when I look at the other side, is that, you know, we might call it magic, but I think it's just technology that we don't understand, because they're watching everything in a more than a 3-dimensional view, because they're feeling and experiencing it. And for some people, it's so traumatic because they may not have been very good people. They may not have resolved all their issues. And so there is a healing center that I've seen. And when they're in the healing center, that's one of the reasons why I don't guarantee that I can talk to anyone is because there is a place that you can go where they will, like these angelic beings will cocoon you in love and light until your soul has healed. And that takes as long as it takes. They're beyond space and time. And so there is a healing center, but there's also this beautiful place that I think that we would call heaven, where you do have those beautiful, like, heavenly voices and the beautiful gardens, but it's more of a respite. This is where you decide, okay, well, what am I going to do from here? And it seems to me like it takes 30, 35 years. And you either come back down if you have karma on the planet, or you go back to your home planet. You go back to the Pleiades or Arcturus or to the Rock Collective. You have free will. Even if you don't really want to work out the karma on this planet, you can still take a break. I've never seen anybody get forced into an incarnation.
No, absolutely not. And this conversation could go the whole show just on that subject, right? And
you are correct.
That's why I'm just skipping all over the place here, just because I know obviously we've got to get to the channeling as well. Thank you for that. So your work obviously involves, tell me if I'm wrong here, it's the tarot as well. You use the tarot cards?
I do. I use my cards every day, and I do a lot on my YouTube channel with the tarot. I do a lot of political readings, current events. I will do the weather, social issues, looking at specific people. Yeah, I mean, it's because people, they want something deeper than what's on the news. Yes, the news is reporting it this way, but it also will not tell you what's going to happen next or what is probably going to happen next. It lacks that. We were
having this conversation off air because I want to, set up the International Spiritual News Network. I hadn't emailed you to tell you about that, and I presumed that you already, when I emailed you, I told you that I'd seen you doing this work. And right. I know. And when I was watching this morning, I was like, yep, that's why I emailed her. This is exactly what I want to do. Yeah, and I know that we're going to work together with it. I just feel that we are, right? And I would definitely recommend your YouTube channel. You've got so many various types of videos on there as well. We'll link that in everything we're talking about is in the description below of this video. So websites, the lot, readings. If you just go to the description in the footer of this video, you'll see all the links there, and you'll be able to contact our guest directly. So, yes, in the tarot then. Now, when I see you doing these videos, you're using all sorts of different decks of cards. So, what are the cards actually doing for you? Is it a form of a way of using your bringing your gift through, or are you also as well with your gift also reading what the cards say as well?
I think it's a combination, and I also think it helps people to have a visual. I think the channels that use a tool, whether it's a pendulum or the tarot cards or an oracle deck, it gives people something to look at. And a lot of people, I think, nowadays understand what the tarot means. And, it's also a way too, for people that are trying to communicate with their guides. You say, okay, spirit guide, I need to know about this. And you shuffle the cards, you pull it out. Because a lot of people, they don't hear their guides, but they can communicate through the tarot. And so we can communicate, through the tarot from spirit and get answers that way. And what I find is that it just adds an extra layer. Like, I think I would give pretty correct answers one way or the other without the cards or not, but I find that the cards add another layer to it. And I like to end my videos using oracle cards, because oracle cards have the writing on it, and that adds another layer to it.
It's fascinating, isn't it? When you look at the history of the tarot cards and where it comes from and how they work, because there's many books, isn't there, out there about how to use them?
Yes.
And
yes,
I'm sure one day you'll probably teach that. That's what you'll see.
I do. I have a whole program. You can sign up for the class anytime. It's all there in the playlist when you become a member.
I
So-
wasn't even trying to do a sales gimmick there. Do you know that? I didn't know. It sounds like it, don't it?
Yes,
I didn't
the
know you
whole
did
class.
that. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Okay. Well, yeah.
Because
I'm not
people
surprised.
are so interested in it. And, and a lot of them are older. Like when I learned, I was younger, but, I have people in their 80s and 90s learning tarot for the first time.
That
Yes.
is great, and a lot of that comes from as well, doesn't it? Listening to the intuition part as well. I guess that's a big part, isn't it? What do you think the intuition is when it comes to the cards, or even to your gift as well? Is that your higher self? Is that your guides? Is that what is that part of you? Do you think?
The one thing I'll say that it's not, and because I always do take issue when people try to use like extraterrestrials for this, they'll never break free will. So like the Ra Collective would never break free will, right? And go against the Galactic Confederation and try to say, well, vote for this person. So what I could honestly say, like do this, do that. Like, no, that's not, any being that's under the Galactic Confederation, they would never do that. So it's never from them. It can come from your guides. It can come from your higher self, but those higher beings like the archangels and like the Ra Collective, the Pleiadians, they're not going to ever tell you like this person's gonna win the election. It'll never come from them, because that could sway the election, which could sway the course of humanity. And so they're not going to do that sort of thing. So I think more higher self probably than anything. My guide is a little bit nonchalant about it, because he's like, well, you're going to be over here in a blink of an eye anyways. I mean, they're all outside of time and space, and they're like, what's an election? What's a news cycle? So, but our higher selves, I think, sometimes chime in a lot when we do those sort of readings.
Yeah, so you think that intuition is also tapping into your higher self, which is the greater, which
Yes.
If we class that maybe, and we don't really understand it, but if we said, well, that it's the larger part of your soul maybe that's coming through at the time. There's a greater connection to that true self, the soul, which is what you really are. Yeah, in a sense, you always have been.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
that's what I would say. Like the Ra would say your higher self resides in sixth density. And so you're tapping into that. And I'm not sure if I can separate my higher self from my intuition. I don't know if there really is a difference. I'm not sure.
No, I think as well as when doing this work as well, you've got to come from a positive mindset. You've got to sort of turn that negative talk off. Meditation. Do you do meditation much at all?
So I wake up every day at 4 a.m. and I meditate for about 3 hours.
Whoa. Okay.
So,
yeah. So and this is how you clear
do.
yourself. This is how you
Yes.
re-energize. Okay. And that's your practice. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's part of my method. And that is something that the Ra gave to me, that if I wanted to hear them in a crystal clear way. And that's also when I do my channeling work, where I will channel the Ra and my guides and archangels, and I get a lot of information. I always start off with the mindfulness, but honestly, I would never even get out of bed without opening my chakras. Like they need to be open and healthy. And yeah.
Well, let me ask you this as well then, but leading on from that is that, obviously you get all sorts of clients that come to you. Do you get clients sometimes that come with maybe attachments that aren't, sort of feeding off them and aren't there for any positive reasons? And this is a way for you to clear yourself from any of that negativity as well, that you try and help.
Yes. Because I mean, a lot of times, like I always say, don't drink and divine. So many people, they think it's fine to have because I don't drink any alcohol. I am vegan. I don't consume chemicals. You start to ingest chemicals or suffering, and then you start opening portals. Because when you use the tarot, or people use Ouija boards or pendulums, oracle cards, and that's when you start letting things in. And before you know it, they start having problems. And so I think the clearer you can keep the vessel, like the Ra talk about, this is just a vessel. The cleaner you can keep the vessel, the clearer the messages will be. Like when you look at the Law of One, Carla Ruckert did eat meat, and look at what happened. She also did, they left in the books that she did do drugs and she drank, and she was plagued throughout the book with this negative entity. And so the Rock Collective that I work with said, don't do it. Just don't. It's so much easier not to.
I think, what about things in moderation? Moderation, I'm at Vegas for the weekend. Hey, it stays there, doesn't it? I'm not taking it back with me, am I?
I think as long as you do it maybe in moderation, but you also don't do anything spiritual at the same time. Like, you're not mixing, like, you're not sitting there having cocktails and then trying to like give reading.
Yeah, let's not go onto our Facebook and start transmitting to like our followers just a message.
Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, even though it might it'll be fun, but no, let's not recommend that. So, and I guess as well that you have to be. I guess, would you be aware though? You have to be aware, don't you? If you were bringing something through that wasn't so positive, maybe some people are aware that there's something there and that they want to work with it. I don't know why. Maybe.
Sure. I mean, some people intentionally, like when you see people that work with the demonic, they're intentionally ingesting various chemicals for that reason, because they have a very different mindset. But like I always say to people, take a good look at them. The people that work with the demonic, look at their hair, their skin, their nails, their eyes. They don't look well. There's no glow about them. And it's because it's a lower vibration. And it makes you unhealthy. And a lot of them are plagued with not just health problems, but money problems, relationship problems. Because, yes, they may manifest that money that they did that ritual for, but then everything else falls apart, so it's a trade-off. I think it's a lot easier to work with the angelic where there is no backlash. Because I've had a lot of clients that have had major backlashes from working with the demonic, because let's face it, you can get a Kindle book, you can watch a YouTube video, and people don't expect it to work. And they get so shocked when it does, but then sometimes they get these attachments or they get a backlash. And I think it's easier to work with high vibrations.
Yeah, I know about
right?
it. I've I have my personal experiences with it, not for calling it forward, nothing like that, but just for people that have called it forward and the ramifications of that as well. So it's always interesting because I don't try to ignore these subjects. Let's just we live in the real world,
right?
And this exists, and people don't want to talk about it, but it's better to be aware than not. Now, doing your work as well, obviously. There's ethics about it as well, isn't there? You've had to learn your ethics, I guess. I'm not that you'd go out there and not do the right thing, but it's a learned thing, isn't it? Doing what you've been doing for years.
Sure. I mean, you have to have I actually in my tarot class, one of the classes I actually teach ethics in tarot. And first of all, when do you say no to a client? When do you stop a reading? One thing that I don't think is great is when somebody is like emailing you again and again and again, and because they're thinking that you're going to solve all their problems. Well, that's not how it works. I'm here to give you spiritual guidance. And the people that are lonely, that they want a reading every week and they're just spending way too much money. The people that have an addiction, people get addicted to psychics, and that's just taking their money. And so you really do have to have ethics. I also don't do death predictions. That's another thing I don't do. Because first of all, I think there's way too many exit points in your chart anyways. It's up to you. You have free will when you choose it. So, you have to, but if someone's not well, what I do is, say if someone's really sick with cancer and they're trying to figure out, do I do the chemo? Do I not do the chemo? So then I'll do the tarot. Well, if you do the chemo, this is the most likely outcome. If you don't, this is the most likely outcome. But, at the same time, I'm not a doctor. And I always try to make that very clear, because you don't want to mislead people. Same thing with the pet readings. I am not a veterinarian. You still need to go get the lab work done and, the x-rays or whatever it is that you need. I'm more for communication purposes. Or when the vet can't figure it out. That's another
But then that's
thing I
where it
do.
kind of separates with the channeling and with that type of mediumship, psychic communication. I'm using those words, right? Then you've got the evolution then of the channeled work, where it's more of like spiritual teachings, isn't it? In a sense, it's a very
Yes.
different type of. They're not going to tell you what to do. Not that you do that in your readings, but
Right.
future predictions and all that kind of stuff, because it's just so different, isn't it? Yes.
It is, right? Because they're not going to interfere with free will. And they're also not going to be like the Rock Collective. If you get a reading with me from the Rock Collective, they're not going to be psychic spies. So they're fine with, you asking, well, what is like the spiritual meaning of my relationship with my boyfriend? But they're not okay with, well, okay, what is my boyfriend doing behind my back? What's going on? Let me know. Tell me what's happening. They're not there to like spy for you. So they kind of break that off. And they'll give you sometimes like the spiritual meaning behind your psychic, behind your like the psychic or spiritual, or like the meaning behind your illness, but not in like a medical way.
And not in a way of should do this or should do that. It's
Exactly.
And and for some people that may not sound empowering, but actually it's really empowering because it gives you a broader perspective of like a deeper meaning for the reason, maybe.
Right. Like, I mean, I've had so many clients that either have thyroid problems or throat cancer simply because as children, they were told, children are seen and not heard. They weren't allowed to speak up. They weren't allowed to be powerful in any way and to express themselves. And then maybe that led to them getting into an abusive relationship where they repeated the pattern. And then it became this whole lifelong thing where their throat chakra stayed closed for decades. And then all of a sudden, now they have actual throat problems. And so, there sometimes is a spiritual reason behind it. And so as you're getting your medical treatment, you can then be working on opening your throat chakra every day and clearing that energy.
Very interesting. So, well, thank you for everything that you've shared so far. I know we're almost at the hour mark here as well. So, when you bring the Ra group through, then what is your process of doing that? Is there a process that you have to follow, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I found like and just so anyone that's trying this at home, don't get discouraged. It took me like an hour when I first started to get into trance. And then it became half an hour and then 15 minutes and then 10 minutes. And then you get to the point where I think I'm down to like 1 or 2 minutes. Now that I've been doing it for like 16 years. So, if you're doing this at home, don't get discouraged. I do offer a class on my membership program through YouTube where I take you step by step. And it's a process of going deep into your subconscious, which is why I don't usually remember most of what I channel. My conscious mind is over there somewhere. And you go deep into your subconscious while you're on the astral plane. And like I said, I do open my heart chakra, my third eye chakra. I also imagine Rahasha's chakras being opened. They're connecting, the lights are connecting, the energy's connecting. And I also imagine that his palms are like on top of mine and that there's like a locking of energy. There comes a moment where there's like a locking of energy and I can step back.
Incredible that
and I'm
when
not
that
as
happens.
present.
Yeah. Then you're just with the flow. Then you're sort of in the background, and this information just flowing through. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I know we're so many things I want to talk about. Just before we move on, when you mentioned the membership there, the membership that people should go to if they want to have that experience, is that on YouTube membership?
It's YouTube.
Right.
It's not on my website because that would take a team. I think I would have to have a team behind me to help run it. Whereas if you do it through YouTube, they take care of things like payments and, I don't do any of that. All I do is make the content, and I just upload it and it's great. But Yeah, I mean, if you sign up for it, if you just get the basic membership, you're getting 12 classes that are already there in the playlist. Everything from channeling to mediumship to animal communication to tarot to opening your chakras to meditation. So there's a lot that's there. Plus, I do a ton of lives.
Yeah. And is it just a one level of membership, or is there different tiers of membership? Or
I have 3, because the second one, I also do angel tarot, where I take 25 of the members. I do just readings for them. And I also teach a Law of One class. And then the highest one is every month I bring in a different archangel live, and the members can interact and ask questions to the angel.
Interesting. Okay, thank you just for explaining that, just for the audience. So I didn't want to just
no, thank you.
Some people are wondering, where's this membership, and I was thinking that as well. So, okay, great. Okay, well that's all again easy to find, and yeah, it's all it'll be on the website as well for this one day in the future. So, okay, if I was to ask you to channel now, then I'm not really attached to any one thing coming through. From what you're saying as well, a number of. Would you say you're sort of a multi-dimensional channel, or there's a number of? How would you class that when it's a number of different entities like that can work with you? So a number of different energies that can work with yourself.
I set my intentions. So like before we even got together, I just set my intention, and I always say this to people: don't just say, I'm open to the universe. Whatever comes through, comes through. Like, please don't do that, because sometimes bad entities can come through. So like before we even started this, I set my intention for the Ra Collective to come through. Just like when I do like the Archangel one, I set it for a particular Archangel. We've already spoken, and I've already channeled the Ra today anyways. So we already had this discussion that this is happening today, and this is what we're going to do. And, you can certainly ask questions. That's the nice part. Like I know some channelers just kind of keep talking, but I think where the Ra and I do so many readings for the public and for clients, in a personal setting, you can just have a conversation and ask questions.
Yep. Well, this is the final part now, and it's always the I enjoy all of it, but this is also fun as well. So yeah, I'll just let you do your thing, and I thank you for demonstrating this.
All right. So just give me a second to go into trance, and I will let them come through. We greet you in the love and unity of the one infinite creator. We are from the Ra Collective, and all listening may refer to us as Rahasha. We are of a similar DNA construct as the Ra, who were originally channeled for the Law of One material. That particular collective is 6th density, subgroup 7. We are 6th density, subgroup 1, meaning that the original Ra collective is close to ascending to 7th density, whereas we have only been in 6th density for 2 million years. It takes us about, approximately, if you will, 75 million years to ascend from 6th to 7th density. As part of our preparation to move closer to 7th density, we are helping and assisting your planet at this transitory time. For any density from 3rd density on to ascend, you must be of service to others. When we say to be of service to others, we mean that you are at least 51% in service to others, opposed to in service to self. we appreciate this opportunity to be of service to everyone that is listening. For to serve the one is to serve the all. We sense that you have questions for us. You may begin.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm kind of curious as well how the connection with yourselves and Dianne is working, more from the sense of, how many lifetimes has she been doing this work with yourselves?
This is the first time that she has left our collective in, let's look at her timeline. In close to 50 million years. So she chooses to stay more as part of our collective than to come down to third density planets. This is a bit out of her comfort zone.
Yeah.
But she thought that this would be the best way to be of service to others at this transitory time. For after your planet had the Second World War, there was a great distress call that was sent out. You have someone named Dolores Cannon that speaks extensively about that. And we would agree with what she says according to that. However, what we would add is that there was another distress call that was sent out in 2012. So those humans that came down after the Second World War, they were in one of those other waves of wanderers, or as some of you may call them, volunteers. But after 2012, because that is when your 75,000 year cycle ended. So third density has 3 parts to it. Each part is 25,000 years. And the third and final part ended in 2012. You would have ascended as a planet as a weak positive. The Galactic Confederation was rather concerned about this, and so another call was sent out. This is why the young people on your planet that was born after 2012 are rather different. They are not going to be tolerant of injustice, inequality, or racism. They are going to truly help to break down the old structures and systems that no longer work. And they will be mostly in service to others.
Yeah, because this feels like it's a time right now of great change. There's something special about this time, isn't there? I mean, you've kind of touched upon that just in what you've said.
This is true. It is a transitory time. You are indeed, as a planet, ascending to fourth density. Now, what happens at that time is that the humanity and the planet itself are presented with what we will call opportunities, but what you may perceive as challenges. So you have, unfortunately, things like famine, plague, war. This is because those present opportunities for others to be of service to other humans. The other challenge that you face at this time is that the planet is also ascending, because a planet and those that are on it ascend at the same time. There is a linkage. And so the planet is purging itself from third density, which is part of the reason that you are seeing so many weather sort of events and natural occurrences, such as tsunamis, volcanoes, hurricanes, fires, tornadoes, and the such. So it is a difficult time in that sense, but it's also happening to ensure that as many humans ascend to fourth density as possible.
I think the changes that we're seeing right now are just the beginning of the changes that are coming. And I'm not trying to talk doom and gloom. I'm talking that there's a deeper reason for all this to happen, for evolution to take place. But for us humans, and for many out there that are asleep, and I don't say that sarcastically, but that aren't, I've not re-remembered who they are. This would seem like a very scary time for a lot of people. It would seem a difficult time for some people, and but I don't think we've seen half or a fraction of the change that's yet to come.
Unfortunately, we will agree with you on that concept. This is because if you were to ascend at this moment, it would be a weak positive, meaning that you would have at least 45%, if not more, of humanity not ascending. Now, if someone doesn't ascend, then that means they have to, after they pass, they go to another third density planet for 75,000 years to experience famine, plague, and war. So you're going to see more and more and more challenges, or as we prefer to say, opportunities arise, because when in these times of difficulties, it gives humans the chance to stand up and to help others. And each person that comes down will come down with a separate mission. That mission may be specifically to help with the food situation, or to help with animals, or to help clean the water. It will be for different aspects, because once you bring all those different aspects together, then you raise the vibration of the planet. That is the whole point, is that the planet's vibration needs to rise more than what it is. But before it gets to that point, it does need to get a bit lowered. But also remember that you are only seeing the negative when you watch your media. The media that you watch, because we find it interesting that so many of you stare at screens all day, you stare at things that are so negative, and you forget all of the good, wonderful, compassionate, loving things that are actually happening. For that never seems to get televised and brought into people's consciousness. So even though, yes, you are correct, that things are about to become more challenging, it also gives people a chance to rise up and to be of service to others. So that way, you can really tip the scale. We are looking at the timeline. Give us one moment. So some of what you're feeling, we are looking specifically at what you are looking at, is that you are seeing this timeline switch where you are coming into a more difficult time. So you are a bit more sensitive than others. So other people may not even notice that this is happening. But other people who are, let's say, more awake or closer to ascending to fourth density, they're going to notice this timeline switch. And with this timeline switch, there are going to be many more challenges presented. There are going to be issues with famine, plague, and war.
Yeah, and I don't think it's to avoid the conversation. I don't think it's to ignore it, shall I say, and then be compliant with just living in ignorance. Because I do feel that we can shape our own destinies, but in alignment with everything else around us happening at the same time as well, right? But I think it's how we look at it as from what are we going to learn from it, and how can we all grow from it as well, which can help affect everyone else that's needs to grow up as well in a sense from a spiritual perspective, right? So yeah, why do I sense it? Because when I used to channel, that's what came through all the time for me was there is a great change about to come. There's a great change about to come. There's a great, and this was back in 2014, 15. So, I mean, I don't channel that anymore and I don't channel, but I mean, when I was, yeah. So, and I know that's the time, the time is now. But what is my question to yourselves? And I appreciate you letting me talk. Well, that's why, I want to launch the ISNN, the International Spiritual News Network, to look at the news from a spiritual perspective. But I don't think, would I still like to look at true crime and the odd Netflix movie? Of course I would. Yeah, I don't want to be in a spiritual paradise where there's no movies, right? Or there's media that we could call negative and positive. Why can't it be a bit more balanced? Why has it got to be the avoidance of one and just only the other?
What we are finding is that fewer and fewer humans are seeking balance, and instead they are perseverating on the negative. What we notice is that they are watching negative, what you would call shows. So things like the news, movies, but it's not just simply that. It's also the conversations that they are engaging in. They're low vibrational. They are getting into dwelling on the negative or gossiping. What we would recommend is a high vibrational diet. And a diet is everything that you consume. It is the food you eat, the fluids you drink, the conversations that you have, the information you take in. It is everything that is around you. Because your planet is already filled with enough negativity, being third density. And so if you seek balance, and what we would say is it's not balance that you would want to seek, you would actually want to at least be 51% positive with your diet, for that will help you to tip the scales. It is more of a concern of ours, of those who perseverate on the negative, for then they become fearful and scared. And some of them are doing strange things. They're being afraid to even leave their house, or they're hoarding, or they are doing things that are out of character for themselves because they are becoming so fearful. And so that's why we like to remind people that, yes, even though negative things are happening, you're also missing out on all of the good things simply because they're frequently not shown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and when I talk about media creation and all that, where I'm coming from, I think it's more of, where is the spiritual message in anything that you produce, right? I think that would be my contribution probably for where I'm at personally with my evolution and all this. So no, very interesting what you've got to say. I just want to say this. I don't know why I'm going to say this, but it's got nothing to do with the. But since you've come into this connection right now, I'm just feeling Sedona. I'm just feeling that's where I've got to set the ISNN up, is Sedona. There's a reason why. It's because that's where my contributors are going to be based. I don't know why I'm going down that road right now. I'm just that's it came to me when you were talking, and I was losing the conversation a bit because all I kept seeing was Sedona. So. Yeah.
Many people enjoy Sedona, and this is because whether they are conscious of it or not, their physical body enjoys the ley lines, that energetic grid that runs on your planet, and also the energy vortexes. And so to some degree, just being on that land feels good to your body. And then when you're around other people who feel good, then you feel even better. And before you know it, everyone's vibration has risen.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted to share that while this conversation was going on. It was just, yeah, I don't know where that came from, but maybe, yeah, okay. I almost want to. This is a bit of a far out there question, right? I, I'm feeling that, or maybe I'm just curious that. Okay, so I'm having this conversation now with you, with this group, and it's channeled through Dianne, but and I understand why Dianne's come here because of this time, right? And all makes sense because it's a very special time, but it takes a brave soul to want to come here, I think. Do you know what I mean? And incarnate. I've got to say that. But is Dianne doing this with yourselves in other versions of this same reality? Is there parallel worlds out there that are close to this one where this is also taking place, but in a different type of slightly different, shall I say, experience?
That is a complicated question. For one, there are many dimensions, as many realities. There are realities on top of realities, all living from our perspective simultaneously when we look down. And the higher self, which resides in sixth density, can split off, so to speak, and have many, many incarnations all at once. And so there's a part of this channeler who is very busily serving on a council under the Galactic Confederation. There are other aspects of her who is enjoying being a raindrop. There is one that she loves being an underwater flower. And they are all existing at the same time. There is no beginning, there is no end. Time is not linear, and that is something that you will lose as you go into fourth density. But it's all happening simultaneously. So even though you may feel a bit stuck in third density at the moment, there are so many aspects of you that are even higher densities, but also lower densities. Like there is a part of you right now that we can tell you is enjoying being a dog in a very different reality. That is something that you're enjoying. You are running free with wonderful owners. You also enjoy being a horse. You have done that many times. You don't need to, you just enjoy the experience. There's also a part of you that is seventh density, that is pure consciousness, that doesn't even have a body. And once again, it's all happening at the same moment. So yes, there are many layers and levels to what you would call reality.
Yeah, I'm just chucking that question in there, just as an example of just how vast this potential could be. But coming back to this pinpoint of attention right now, where we are right now, where does manifestation and attracting the life that we really want fall in with everything we're talking about as well? Because that's a big thing for all of us. Yes, we've got all this change going on, and just focusing on us as an individual and what we want out of this experience also help to heal everything else that's also going on, which may seem like out of balance, what we would perceive, or some people might perceive as out of balance, but maybe it's all meant to be. But just so we're here also to create the life that we want as well.
Absolutely. And that is one of the most important things about third density. This is where you learn how to manipulate energy. Thoughts become things. The shirt that you are wearing right now was a thought in someone's mind before it became created, and now you're wearing it. However, where humans get very frustrated is that in third density, that thought, yes, it became a thing, but then actual human hands had to make it. You couldn't go and say, use the frontal lobes of your brain in like you do in fourth density and just simply manifest it. There is a little bit of a gap. However, the more you practice doing it in third density, first of all, it brings you closer to fourth density, because that is how you create food in fourth density. You create it as a community using your frontal lobes. But the more you do that in your personal life in third density, where you are imagining exactly what you want, and you do that energetically, and you do it through feelings, you do it through emotions, and they have to be the highest emotions because they need to be the highest vibrations. to create something in your reality, the vibration must be extremely high. So vibrations of love, joy, pleasure, ecstasy, love for life, those are the emotions that you need to manifest and to create. What you would want to do is to visualize in your mind's eye that thing, that whatever it may be that you wish to manifest, while you are feeling the highest vibration emotions and truly feeling them and embracing them. And that will help bring you not just the object or the thing that you wish, but it'll also help bring you towards fourth density. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess does that sort of move towards purpose then? That if you're attracting that which is in such alignment like that, that is also purpose. That's what you're, that's of being of service, maybe.
It truly depends upon what it is you are trying to manifest. Are you trying to manifest something that is for the highest good? Because you can also manifest something that is not for the highest good, that could be more of service to self.
But you can still manifest it, and you're the only judge of that, whether it is that or the other, which you've described there. Yeah.
No, we disagree that you are the only judge. For once you cross over after your incarnation ends, your vibration is measured. And that is how it's determined which density you would go to next.
Is that with free will?
That is if you wish to continue to incarnate with that particular aspect of your higher self. You are not forced to. You can stop at any time, but that is the process.
I appreciate you so much for everything that you've shared with us so far. So thank you so much. If there was an important message to share with the audience right now, what would that be, do you think?
A question that we get asked often by humans is, how can I possibly be of service to others, especially 51% of the time? Many humans, especially what you would call light workers, they think that they need to do something grandiose, such as open a food pantry, a food bank, a soup kitchen, an animal sanctuary, a homeless shelter. And that is out of reach for many humans, even though many humans will do those things and many humans will assist in them. But the most important thing to do to be of service to others is to start small, to start right where you are. If you see your next door neighbor is struggling, then maybe go over and assist them. If you see a stray animal that needs assistance outside your house, assist them. It is these small acts that add up. So often humans get caught up in thinking they're not doing enough, which lowers their vibration because then they start to feel depressed and anxious. When in reality, it's usually those humans who are doing more than enough, but they're not doing it on the scale that they think they should. And so, sending cards to those in, what would you call them? Convalescent homes, care homes, something simple like that. Maybe buying a few extra cans of food when you go grocery shopping and donating it. It's those small things. And because we see that so many humans are having anxiety about not doing enough because they know that they came down here for a reason, right? They know that they came to your planet for a reason, and they're not quite understanding that they are doing enough for the most part. It's the ones that aren't questioning it that aren't doing enough. If you are questioning it, then that is half of the battle right there. So we say, start small, start local, start with your next door neighbor. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. And I just thank you for your time and for your energy right now. And yeah, what can I say? But just thank you for for sharing those messages.
And we thank you. We thank you for inviting us to be here today. For to serve one is to serve the all. We leave you in the love and unity of the one infinite creator. Okay.
Well, Dianne, thank you so much for doing that. And there's so many questions there that I would have, that I could have asked. And I think it was just for a quick demonstration of just how it works to show people. And I think what they had to say was
Sure.
just as important as whether we'd gone on for a bit longer, to be honest with yourself. So very interesting. And it's interesting how you just sort of you connect in and then just come out. And then were you aware? Do you remember much of what was said? Are you how's it? What are you?
Not very.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No. Okay, I never asked
No.
you that in the interview, actually, whether it was a bit of a
Yeah, I don't. Unless something strange happens. Like if, like one time I had a client ask me, will I ever find a comfortable pair of pants? And it just sort of blew Raha Shah's mind. And before I know it, I'm getting yanked forward and I'm like, what just happened?
Right. Yes. That's interesting.
And then sometimes, so much energy comes through. It blows, and I'm glad it didn't happen this time, but it blows all the electricity in the house. I mean, I have so many extra batteries for the remotes and the light bulbs, and it's a 17-room house, and it'll even get my brother's side when it happens.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, even his remote control on his TV will go at the same time. And if somebody asks something like inappropriate or
oh, I see. Yes.
it's kind of funny, but it's a lot of energy.
Well, listen, your website is
Dianne Aquarius, and it's Dianne with 2 N's, DianneAquarius.com.
I just want to say, Dianne, thank you for coming on today and sharing your energy with us. Thank you for giving us your time, because I know how busy you are right now, right? So, and we were delayed in doing this interview because of me, but just thank you so much. And,
thank you.
You give us extra and overtime right now. So I know we're going to touch base again. We're going to connect. So this isn't, goodbye. Yeah. Thank you so much. But this is like, we'll speak soon. So thank you for your time right now.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you and your invitation. Thank you.